there's a difference.
What?
There's a difference between feeling loved and being fulfilled. Feeling loved makes you feel accepted and valued by your partner, and it's someone who truly gets you, you know? That's someone you love. But some people get confused and they just deal with the thought of coexisting with their person, and that's being fulfilled. Feeling satisfied that just them being there is enough when it's not. There's a lot of different aspects you need to look at if you're going in for a long-term connection. Another thing people get discouraged with is they're afraid of arguments and disagreements. I use the term arguments not as describing and disagree. Okay, the reason I separate the two between an argument and a disagreement is because of the level of intensity. And a disagreement is something that you see opposite sides on. An argument is something that their opinion doesn't want to change. So, some people argue over who's right and who's wrong, and that's just a disagreement would be, I thought you were supposed to take out the trash, but you didn't. So that, it's just a level of intensity. Now, you have to keep in mind, society tells us that a lot of relationships need to end because of the toxic disagreements that people have. You have to remember that everyone is different. Some couples will argue in, using monotone, like me, and some couples will yell at the top of their lungs. It doesn't necessarily mean it's toxic. It just means that they have a different way of voicing their opinion, and I'm guilty of yelling a lot just because I'm very passionate, and that describes how passionate you are. Not to say if you're quiet and speaking in monotone you're not passionate. It's just there's different levels, again, of intensity. But what is toxic is when you are in a disagreement or an argument and humiliation becomes a thing. Humiliation or degrading someone, that's a toxic thing. But if you're arguing and yelling, it doesn't matter. You're gonna yell eventually. There's no one who hasn't yelled. And that's okay. It's okay to yell. But when you start name calling or putting someone down, that is toxic. That's not okay in a relationship. So something to keep in mind for dating in 2020 is that you need to keep outside interests alive. You need to have that friend that you can talk to. It is always perfect to have a group that both partners are just welcomed in and you have your mutual friends. That is a-okay. But you need to also remember to have the outside friend, someone that you can talk to, whether it's anyone, your mom, your family member. Personally, it's my mom. I like talking to my mom. If it's really a big issue, then I'll go to her for advice. If anything, I'll just talk to my partner about it. And that is something that you need to keep in mind. It makes a healthy relationship, and even a therapist is okay. To involve someone in your relationship to have a different perspective and understanding. Now, it is not okay to involve your outside interests in your relationship. They shouldn't be a deciding factor in your relationship. If someone says break up with someone, that is not an outside relationship you need. That is someone toxic in your life. You need someone to say, here's how you can work this out. But, they should just be giving advice. They shouldn't be determining what factors are good and bad for your relationship because it's not their relationship. And that's where a lot of people get mixed up. And yeah. And now for the biggest one is honest and open communication. Good communication is a part of any relationship, and the fact that people don't communicate comfortably is an issue. I love having outside sources, like, example, my mom. If I talk to my mom, I should be able to talk to my partner the same way that I talk to my mother. Because if I'm talking about our relationship, I need to discuss with my partner. And with the advice that I've been given or that I've decided to follow, I need to have that communication with my partner and say, hey, I've come up with this. Maybe this is how we can fix that situation in our lives. And, the lying, the cheating, that is not okay. And if you can't communicate your needs to your partner, then to be open and honest is to have the specific communication with your partner and saying, hey, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. It's not to go involve yourself in someone else's life because you have needs that need to be met. No, if you have needs, which we all do, they need to be met by your partner, or you shouldn't have a partner. And that's just a simple fact that, everyone has trouble with, I guess, because they're wanting to be involved with other people while still involved with their main relationship, basically. One thing to tell the difference with is falling in love versus staying in love. What's very sad is that a lot of people fall in love with the idea of love. and they associate that feeling with a person, and it makes it hard to stay in love once that person has changed or has shown something different from what you fell in love with, and that's a difficult thing. So now for some tips. Spending quality time face-to-face. I get it could be a lot harder for some people in a long-distance relationship, but at the same time, it's important to keep that sort of connection. Face-to-face could be FaceTime if you're doing a long distance, but it's important to know that if you're doing a long distance, do you see yourself spending money to go see that person? Do you see yourself finding a way to live with that person in the end? It's very difficult for some to see their relationship go in that direction when they have a lot of